Hey everybody, it's Matthew, and I wanted to record another uh, video blog here, another multidimensional moment. I'm here with Lola. You can see. Say hi, Lola. Say hi to everybody. Say hi. Now she wants to go over the window. I'm going to put her over there in a sec. But yeah, I wanted to share an experience that I had yesterday, um, and it was reading a novel, and so this is a little blog on multidimensional novel reading and what that's like when you incorporate the astrological perspective into the pleasure of reading a novel. And so I woke up yesterday here in the United States. It's Memorial Day yesterday. I hope those in the States had a nice holiday weekend. Um, and so yesterday was kind of a day off for me, and I woke up a little bit in a funk, not feeling so great, and wasn't sure what I was gonna do with the day. And then I was just browsing the internet for a little while, and I saw what's that, lol? I saw a news story about a film that I didn't know was coming, called The Martian, and it's being made by one of my favorite directors, Ridley Scott, and it's coming out later this year, starring Matt Damon. And I saw it was based on a novel that's very beloved, and I thought I'd check out the novel. I haven't read a novel in quite a while. I read mostly nonfiction these days. Every once in a while, I'll get to enjoy a novel, but this was a fun day yesterday. I read the whole novel in one day, which is unusual for me, and it was just a very pleasurable day. And the process of reading the book, it was just very engaging, and it kind of took me out of my funk, and I remembered the joy that reading a really great novel can bring. And so here's just an image of the novel. It's directed by Andy Weir, and I'm not going to really say a whole lot about the plot of the book. I think I'll just share that it's a thrilling novel. If you don't want to know anything about the book and you want to read it, go read it and then come watch this video blog. But I will say a little bit about it here. It's a thrilling, epic novel in a very realistic, scientific, detailed description of a journey to Mars. And Andy Weir, who wrote the novel, apparently he just did a whole lot of research and tried to really get the details right of what a NASA journey to Mars would look like. And he describes himself as a kind of science geek. And Lola, you're making a lot of noise over here, aren't you? Yeah, she wants to stay over there. You excited to be over there, huh? So yeah, Andy Weir describes himself as a kind of science geek, and he just really got into the details, and he wrote his own computer software so he could calculate the orbits of the flights. And he for every day in the book, he knew exactly like what actual date that would be, and had calculated the when the actual launch would be, and all that. And so it's filled with all kinds of scientific detail, but it's also just a real thrilling page turner. And the basic premise of the books, I'll just tell you what you find out in the first page, I think, that 6 astronauts go to Mars, and after just being there a week, there's a huge dust storm, like an overwhelming dust storm that's so powerful that they have to cancel their trip. They have to abort the whole mission, and so in the process of trying to escape from Mars, one astronaut gets left behind, and they think that he's dead, but it turns out that he's alive, and the whole story is about this astronaut's trying to survive being on Mars. And it's just got that great quality of a true survival story. And so I just wanted to share with you my experience of reflecting on the novel. I, you know, whenever I have an experience like this where I'm drawn to read something or drawn to watch a film, typically I'm not super aware of the astrological correlations while I'm, say, reading the book or watching the film. Sometimes I am. In this case, I wasn't really thinking about that. I just kind of followed my intuition. I saw the story about the movie, and I saw that people loved the novel, and I was like, maybe I'll check it out. And I downloaded onto my iPad the sample of the book, and I read the sample, and within about 10 pages, I was just completely sucked in, and wasn't even really thinking about the astrology so much. But then later in the day, as I was still reading the book, then I started reflecting on it. I ended up looking up Andy Weir's birth chart, and so there's so many layers to what you can explore with astrology when it comes to trying to basically you're tuning in to the deeper archetypal dimensions of the novel itself, and also of the experience of reading the novel, where you feel yourself kind of participating in a deeper level of meaning. I mean, there's the surface level of just the the pleasure and engagement with the material itself, but then the knowledge of astrology, whether that's well, there's just different things you can look at, and you can think about what's in the collective picture, the astrological alignments that are in the sky at the moment that you're come here. She's making a lot of noise over here. Oh, now she likes to she likes to regurgitate her food. Hi, Lowell. And so you can make correlations to what's in the sky. You can, in this case, you can look at the natal chart for the author. I can consider my own personal transits and how they might be relevant to why I would be reading the book and have that kind of experience with it. So all these different levels are worth exploring. And so I'm just going to kind of walk you through what I was reflecting on as I tried to think about the deeper dimensions of my experience of reading this novel yesterday. And, just to keep it simple, on the simplest level, the thing that was striking to me is that we've got this amazing alignment with Mars. And I was drawn to read a book. Come here. I'm going to put her in my lap here. I was drawn to read this novel about Mars while there's this really strong alignment with Mars. See what's happening. Let me go to, I'm just going to bring up yesterday. I thought I had it here. Well, I guess I'll just go back a little bit here. So this is yesterday afternoon, and it happens to be I started reading the book in the morning yesterday, and just read straight through, finished the whole book in a day, finished like about 8 o'clock last night. And that's such a rare thing for me to get that swept away in a novel, that I can read it all in just one day. I mean, usually I would read it over a couple weeks or something, but it's just that gripping. And so just so striking to me, look at this alignment that happened to be happening yesterday. A grand cross lined up right on Mars. There's a Sun, Mars, Mercury triple conjunction. They are all square to Neptune, and also square to the moon, and in this grand cross with Saturn. And I'm not going to break that all down, but I mean, just the Sun, Mercury, Mars triple conjunction, all in Gemini. Mercury has to do with reading. The Sun is like a spotlight. Gemini has a lot to do with the mind. It's an air sign, so it's more mercurial kind of sign. But then that they're all square to Neptune. The main correlation I had to this experience yesterday was just how, like, the healing medicine of the imagination and just basically the experience of living in my imagination all day yesterday as I reflected on this story about an astronaut on Mars and being able to go to another world for a day. This just the Mercury Neptune archetype is so connected to reverie and to surrendering to the imagination. Mercury Neptune is very much a science fiction alignment. The way in which science fiction, many great creative novels do this, but science fiction especially is gripping of the imagination, and there's a way in which you can kind of get lost in the imagination with a great science fiction novel. I've noticed that a number of science fiction authors have Mercury Neptune aspects, and anyway, this experience of kind of getting lost in the well, it's interesting, you know. I was kind of like, I woke up kind of stuck in my mind and kind of stuck in consciousness. Yep. And Lola, here, over there. I woke up kind of, you know, feeling a bit stuck yesterday, and this alignment in the sky has that potential. The Sun, Saturn, Neptune, the Mercury, Saturn, Neptune, the moon's on it yesterday, and you know, I kind of was feeling just sort of not knowing what the day was going to be, and kind of feeling a bit just stuck in my mind, actually, which is typical of Saturn Mercury, which is this long-lasting alignment that we've had most of this month, and it's going to be there for a while. But it's just so interesting, this Mercury Saturn Neptune T-square. You know, there's the potential for getting stuck in the mind, but then there's also the potential of like surrendering to the imagination, or opening to the intuition that Neptune can bring, the kind of resolution of that tension. And but with the Sun and Mars on it, just so striking that I would surrender to my imagination with regard to a story about Mars, and even with the moon on there, like there's something about like the moon Neptune that has a lot to do with kind of curling up in the moon, curling up in the womb of consciousness, which I kind of curled up in bed yesterday and just stayed with this story all day with so Mercury, Moon, Neptune, T-square. Like a kind of yummy experience of exploring the imagination, but with Sun and Mars on it, it's a story about going to Mars, and it's like a vivid tale about going to Mars. Now, there's other things happening here. The Pluto-Uranus square is very much, you know, think about the 1960s and the space race and the space program, and this novel really captures the energy of a story like, say, Apollo 13, or any of the kind of epic stories of you know, the space program and the going to the moon. It's basically the next round of that energy, and the book came out, and we'll look at this in a minute. The book came out in 2013 and was published in well, it came out in a Kindle version in 2013, and then in a print version in 2014. So it's been around a couple of years, but basically this book emerged under this Uranus-Pluto square that's so strong now and has been for several years now. And so it's kind of a combination of these two energies in the sky. And so it's just, again, it's just so striking to me how the collective energies are so wanting to express themselves in all of our lives all the time. And whether they're transiting our natal charts or not, they're wanting to be seen. They're wanting to be listened to. They're wanting to be, I use this metaphor before. Some of you have heard me talk about how it's like when the collective energies are happening, it's like it's like there's a solo performance. There's always the music of the spheres, is always expressing itself, as a kind of collective symphony that we're always hearing or experiencing. But when certain alignments become more dominant, it's like those energies come through like in a solo performance, and they want to be seen, they want to be validated, they want to be heard for their gift. And so now it is interesting to look at what my personal transits are with this. And oh no, this is Andy Weir. Bring that up later. Here's my natal chart, and I thought I had a bi-wheel. Maybe this is it. Oh yeah, here we go. So maybe actually let's just take a quick look at my natal chart. And just, I know you guys have heard me do presentations on books before, and I'm a big book person, and I already have this amazing alignment that's just so oriented towards exciting experiences of reading. I have a Mercury Venus conjunction, which has to do with like love of reading, pleasure in reading. So I already have a lot of potential for just real pleasurable reading experiences. But then it's on Uranus and Pluto, that 1960s energy. I'm born in '69, and so I already have an orientation towards kind of reading something exciting like this. And you're making a lot of noise over here, girl. Come here. Come here. I thought I brought Lola to the last Multidimensional Moments video blog, and I don't know, I kind of like having her. She does make a little bit of noise, so it's a little bit distracting. I hope you guys don't mind, but I thought I would integrate her into these just because it's kind of fun for her and for me. So yeah, I mean, you can see here I've got a Mercury Jupiter conjunction, broad Mercury Pluto conjunction, a lot of potential for rich and exciting experiences of reading, and that's just been one of the key themes of my life, is just amazing experiences of reading. And now that I'm thinking about it, there's something about the Mercury-Uranus conjunction that I'm born with. I often say this to clients, that like wherever Uranus is in the chart, there's this potential for a breakthrough, or a potential for change, or a potential for an unexpected opening. And it's kind of like the ace in the hole of your chart, where Uranus is potentially, is looking at that energy can give you a sense of ways in which you can find freedom, or an opening to something new. And so for me, it's always been the case that if I'm feeling stuck or I'm having a hard time, I can always turn to a book or to some kind of learning experience will often shift my energy and open me to something new. And yesterday it was just I don't know, it was just so healing. It was such a healing reminder for me that my own imagination can be a place of healing and medicine, and the experience of reading a great novel can be a real healing source of medicine. And so just briefly, my transits here, yeah, here we go. Just, this Sun, Mercury, Mars triple conjunction is all trine to my natal Mercury alignments over here. So the potential for a real fun experience of learning that just like, just was so easy to read that book. Mercury trine Mercury, Mercury Mars trine Mercury, and it's Sun trine Uranus and Mercury. That whole alignment is just it's the kind of wave where there's the potential for catching a real fun experience, catching a real pleasurable wave, which is what it was yesterday. And then I'm still getting this Pluto-Uranus energy is so strong on my chart right now. I was thinking about the Pluto-Mars conjunction that I'm getting. The energy of the book is it definitely has a plutonic quality of intensity and survival, and this quality of this astronaut trying to survive on Mars. I've always been drawn to that kind of novel, you know, a kind of outdoor survival type tale. And Pluto on my Mars, though, is intensifying that. The Mars square Jupiter that I'm born with is a very adventure oriented. Like Jupiter is expansive and oriented towards travel, and Mars gives it fire and a lot of heat and movement. And I've heard Rick Tarnas talk about Mars Jupiter as kind of like an Indiana Jones kind of energy, and I have that in me. And to have that intensified right now, there's more of a potential for being drawn to these kinds of stories that have that kind of epic survival quality to them. And Uranus is on it, so it's that again, that kind of space space and technology kind of energy that Uranus Pluto can be. Uranus Pluto can be call it like the Star Trek archetype, and so it has that futuristic energy, and this is a sci-fi futuristic kind of story, and it's right on my Mars Jupiter. So that's a bit on my multidimensional experience yesterday. Now, if we want to go deeper, which I did, the next thing to do is to look at the novelist chart. And I don't want to go too much into this, but just briefly, here's Andy Weir's chart. He's on Wikipedia. I don't have an exact birth time, but you know, if the first thing I was looking at what's going on with Mars in his chart, somebody that's ultimately famous for writing a novel about a journey to Mars. He does have a Mercury-Mars conjunction. It's a little broad. It's 13 degrees, but it's definitely operative. And there's a couple of reasons why, you know, the Mars is also square Uranus here, and Mercury is square Uranus. So it's a Mercury-Uranus square on Mars. But it's this larger alignment with Mercury that he has. I think I'm actually going to pause here because Lola is just being a little bit, little too. So yeah, this Mercury Jupiter. Well, it's complex. Andy's born at the end of the 1960s Pluto Uranus conjunction, and even though it's 15 degrees here, by the moment that Andy was born, that 1960s energy was still just really climaxing and very strong in the collective. It had basically been building for 12 years there. And so even though it's a broader conjunction, people born with this still have that energy quite strong in their psyches. And this is the year of the last Apollo space flight, and the energy of his book, it feels like it feels totally like the next wave of the Uranus Pluto energy. And he has his Mercury Jupiter opposition, the part of him that has strong impulses towards writing and learning and study. He's been a kind of successful student. Let me just pull up his Wikipedia here. Actually, let's see. Let's go to Andy Weir. Weir was born and raised in California. His father is a particle physicist, and Weir grew up reading classic science fiction, such as the work of Arthur C. Clarke and Isaac Asimov. At the age of 15, he began working as a computer programmer, studied computer science, worked as a programmer for several software companies, including AOL and Blizzard, where he worked on Warcraft 2. And I'll come back to this. You know, he describes himself as a kind of geek or nerd, a science geek, and there is some of that potential. And basically, um, Mercury is the alignment that, or Mercury is the planet that has to do with the kind of nerd energy. People who identify with that tend to have like a really strong, successful intellect and tend to be good students and tend to really enjoy learning and tend to focus there, you know, tend to focus on reading and learning. And then you also get a kind of science orientation sometimes, which is more, it can be like the Mercury Uranus. Mercury is learning, and Uranus has to do with technology and scientific innovation, and it's got that kind of futuristic energy. And so for him to have his Mercury on this larger configuration, like the Jupiter square Pluto is on his Mercury, and he also has Mercury square Uranus. It's kind of broader configuration, but it's basically a T-square of Mercury, Jupiter, Uranus, and Pluto and Mars is pulled into it. It actually has all these planets energetically linked. One of the tightest aspects here is the Jupiter-Pluto square, which is the archetype of like epic high drama, where Pluto is drama and Jupiter makes it really big. And this is about as big of an epic story as you can get, because it involves, you know, space travel. And it's not just like a James Bond story that involves multiple countries. It's multiple planets and the vastness of space. So for him to have Mercury on Jupiter, Pluto, there's a real potential for like a really big epic story like this. And then the Mercury Uranus, I wanted to just point out, that's often an alignment you see in gifted writers, people who have a kind of exciting style of writing and real creative quality to their writing. And it also, I've heard Rick Tarnas talk about this, it has something to do with good plot twists. And that's something that I read about when I was reading a little bit about Andy Weir. He said the process of researching the book and getting the science right, he was surprised how like really doing the science in a detailed way led to a bunch of like unexpected twists, where the twists of the story came right out of the science. And so that gift for the plot twist is very much his Mercury Uranus. Now, I just want to briefly look at what his transits have been, because this is a amazing story of somebody that was just trying to publish his own writing. He was getting turned down by agents and publishers, and he just ultimately ended up putting this story on his own website for free. And people got into it. He was putting it up a chapter a month, and people really got into it. And then they asked him to put it on Kindle, and he put it up on Kindle, and he had to charge something for it. He would have just put it out there for free, but he charged the smallest amount he could, 99 cents, and he got like 35,000 people who bought it at 99 cents, and that attracted publishers. And basically, you know, he had this incredible ride where he went from being an unpublished author to somebody who was now a New York Times bestseller. And let's just take a quick look at what Wikipedia says here, the publishing history. He began writing the book in 2009, which is, you know, as the Uranus square Pluto is really starting to get strong. Researching the book to be as realistic as possible based on existing technology. Studied orbital mechanics, astronomy, and the history of manned spaceflight. He has stated that he knows the exact date of each day in the book. Let's see. Having been rebuffed by literary agents when trying to get prior books published, Weir decided to put the book online in serial format, one chapter at a time, for free on his website. At the request of fans, he made an Amazon Kindle version available through Amazon.com at 99 cents. Kindle edition rose to the top of Amazon's list of best-selling science fiction titles, where it sold 35,000 copies in 3 months. This garnered the attention of publishers. Podium Publishing, an audiobook publisher, signed for the audio rights in January 2013. Weir sold the print rights to Crown in March 2013 for 6 figures. And then the book debuted on the New York Times bestseller list on March 2nd, 2014. And so I just want to take a quick look at, well, this is mine. This is Andy Weir. So here's January of 2016, and you can see that he's got that Pluto-Uranus square, has been in the years leading up to it, coming onto his, basically the Pluto, Jupiter, Uranus, Mercury part of his chart. This whole alignment that has to do with the potential for being a successful writer. Jupiter, the success, Mercury, the writing. He's been getting Pluto and Uranus. First activating his Pluto. Actually, when he first started, I think it looked like, yeah, he's got a Sun square Pluto. I'm just realizing that now. Sun square Pluto. The main character of this story is very much a Sun Pluto guy, because he has this will to survive, and Pluto is the life and death struggle energy, and the Sun is the heroic impulse. I remember years ago I read this book called Adrift that's very similar to this, about a guy whose boat sank in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and he had to survive on his life raft for, I think it was like 200 days or something, out in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And that guy was born with Sun square Pluto. And you often see the Sun Pluto archetype in people who have more of that kind of intense, driven survival energy. But anyway, the Uranus square Pluto in 2009, when he started working on this, was starting to come onto his Sun, as I believe, and then eventually, as he got further into the process, when it started to go on to Kindle, that would have been a little bit earlier than this. I was assuming it would have been like at the end of 2012, and you can see Pluto is exactly opposite as Mercury. Pluto is intensifying, driving that kind of successful writing potential in his chart. And at the same time, he's starting to come into Uranus square Mercury, which has something to do with publishing online. The Uranus Mercury that he's born with and that he gets as a transit here, you see that more where there's like writing or communicating something through technology or through online, through the Kindle. The creator of the Kindle, Bezos from Amazon, he's born with Mercury, Pluto, Uranus, which is basically what Andy Weir is here born with. And he's a great success story of how a new technology made it possible for his work to be seen and gain success, where if he had to just stick to the old ways of publishing, he would have never got his book out there. And so he's a great example of a Mercury Uranus person who has found success online at first, and then that success led to hey Lola, that success online led to the being able to get the larger publishing contract. So really cool that this moment of tremendous success is corresponding to the Pluto Uranus in the sky going across his Jupiter Mercury. Now, I just wanted to take a quick look at let's go like week by week here. This last 2013 and 2014 must have been just like the most thrilling years of his life, and this year as well. I mean, he didn't just become the New York Times bestseller from never having published anything. He got a film deal, and it wasn't just any film deal. It was with one of the best filmmakers of all time, Ridley Scott, who's famous for his science fiction. It must be just an unbelievable thrill. And so let's just take a look at what's going on with Jupiter here in the year 2013, month month by month. I'll just sort of go forward a month at a time here. So, you know, he's getting his publishing deal with Uranus square Jupiter. Just a classic lucky break kind of transit with Pluto intensifying it. But then if you just look at Jupiter here, by April, it's coming onto his, well, he at the moment of the deal, he actually has Jupiter opposite Neptune here in January. Jupiter's stationing opposite Neptune, which is like a kind of hope renewed kind of energy, spiritual joy. It's just a real nice transit. And then month by month, look what's happening by May. Jupiter's coming onto his sun once in 12-year Jupiter-Sun conjunction on his sun and Venus. That May-June period, Jupiter sitting right on his sun and Venus. And then as it goes forward, you can see here in July, it's Jupiter opposite Jupiter. Jupiter within 5 degrees of his natal Mercury. It's sitting right on his Mercury in August and squaring Uranus. And then it moves forward onto his Mars by the end of the year. And then it's in, let's see here, it's the book debuted on the New York Times bestseller. It's on March 2nd, 2014. So maybe let's just take a look at that. You can see in March, Jupiter is just sitting right on his natal Mercury and squaring his natal Uranus, and it's Jupiter square Uranus in the sky. So it's a Jupiter-Uranus-Pluto T-square in the sky, sitting right on his natal Mercury as he becomes a New York Times bestseller. And that's a real exciting rare transit. It's also, he's born with Mercury square Uranus, so it's also Jupiter-Uranus on his natal Uranus. He's getting the huge midlife breakthrough transit of Uranus opposite Uranus, which you basically, this is the turning point in his career. It's the rest of his life he's going to be a best-selling author who's published one of the most successful sci-fi novels of this time period, and also gets that novel made into a major motion picture. So just very thrilling transits here for him. And what did I want to look at? The last thing I wanted to look at is what is going to be there at the end of, I mean, this whole time in 2014, as the film's being made, as the book's being widely read. Uranus is opposite Uranus, just exact. But let's look at the end of 2015. It's in November. I think it's November 20. I think it says here. I think it's going to be November. Not seeing it here. Oh yeah, November 25th, 2015 is the release date. Let's just take a quick look at that. That's the end of this year. Movie starring Matt Damon. Here's November 2015, November 25th. And I just wanted to point out that as the film is coming out, that there's a cool Mars alignment. He's going to have Uranus exactly opposite Uranus within 2 degrees. Pluto exactly square Uranus. So Pluto is tight square Uranus in the sky on his natal Uranus especially. But look, Mars, Uranus, Pluto, T-square for a film about a thrilling journey to Mars. And that Mars, Uranus, Pluto, T-square is on Andy Weir's natal Uranus the week that the movie comes out. Super cool. Venus there too. So those are some brief thoughts for this multidimensional moment. Lola, do you want to say goodbye to everybody? You want to say goodbye? You were being pretty good. Made a little bit of noise this time, but then you settled down, didn't you? Say goodbye. Say goodbye. So take care, everybody. Until next time, this has been Matthew Stelzner with another multidimensional moment. Hey everybody, just a quick PS. You know, I was just listening to the recording I just made and reflecting on things even deeper. And here I am with my chart again in transits. This is just a quick comment. You know, for some reason it just didn't jump out at me how obvious this is. But I mean, I pointed out that I've got this big transit to my natal Mars. Pluto, Uranus, both on Mars. You can see Uranus exactly square Mars. Pluto 4 degrees from Mars. I'm born with a strong Mars. Jupiter square. Just how much that transit is relevant to reading a book about Mars, and even like the character of the book is just so Pluto, Uranus, Mars, that I have that once in a lifetime transit, and that I would key in on a kind of thrilling futuristic book about Mars and space travel. I mean, these together, Mars, Jupiter, Pluto, Uranus, is probably like the ultimate sci-fi space adventure energy. You know, this is just interesting to me how this is how astrology works. You know, you tune into the transits and you kind of reflect on them like a poem, and you get your first kind of awareness. And then when you stay with it a little longer, like I just sat with it another 30 minutes here, I was like, oh yeah, of course. I didn't emphasize. I emphasized that I had this Pluto Mars transit, but didn't really isolate how crucial that is to the theme of the book I was reading. So just wanted to point that out. It's probably obvious to a lot of you when I pointed it out that was key. But I felt like it was important to just name it here. So there's my PS. Okay, take care.